Welcome to the Pot of Inquiry. Ready for some thought-provoking cerebral whipping and the destruction of ridiculous medical dogma? Want to shift those stale, moldy old paradigms? Well then, don that thinking cap of yours. Get down in the cave and join our host, Dr. Stephen Barrett, for this week's episode. Let's start spelunking.
My guest this week is Alex Lubarsky. Alex is the CEO of an organization called Science of Human Optimization, and he has a very interesting story that he'll share with us in our conversation. Interestingly, he started out as an auto repair mechanic and now is into the business of human repair, which I think is a fascinating transition. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Alex has a book coming out that we talk a little bit about in our conversation called Youthful Longevity. That book will be available very soon, and I'm excited to actually get a copy of it. But I think you'll enjoy this very interesting interview that I have with a gentleman who has really a very interesting perspective on optimizing the human condition. So please enjoy this conversation I have with Mr. Alex Lubarsky. All right. Welcome to the Pot of Inquiry, everyone. I am here with Alex Lubarsky, and Alex is the CEO of the Science of Human Optimization organization. Did I get that right, Alex?
Correct.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about what you are interested in and what you are doing and how you're changing lives positively.
Well, I'm trying to change lives positive, and I have been trying for 20 years. But when I first started doing this, it was, as I'm sure you know, a very uphill battle. Anytime you talk about things like eating organic food or toxic chemicals in our environment and the umbilical cord of a newborn, the sugar addiction, the pharmaceutical infiltration into our daily lives, it was frowned upon. You couldn't really talk like that. And it's just funny because I was watching Tucker Carlson interview RFK, and that's all they're talking about.
Right.
So this whole idea of making America healthy again. Wow.
Right.
I mean, we've come a long way.
Right. Well, we've got a long ways to go. But I think if you just look at the society, I was recently overseas and I was just doing this little epidemiological informal observation, and I would look at 20 people walk by and I would count the number that were actually obese, and it was sometimes 0 and sometimes 1 out of 20. Now at the Atlanta airport, I can assure you that number is much, much higher. So we're a country that's actually quite sick right now.
Well, maybe we've hit bottom. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people woke up after the whole COVID experiment and their eyes were more open, that, the whole idea was that do whatever you want, eat whatever you want, live however you want. And then when you get old and sick, you have your health insurance and we're going to take care of you.
Right.
We're going to restore you back to health with magic and pixie dust. And you got nothing to worry about. Enjoy yourself is the motto. But I think we saw just how broken, just how bizarre and perhaps even evil our system of healthcare has become. And that unless we as individual people, individual citizens of the United States, begin rebuilding our relationship directly with knowledgeable, passionate, brilliant physicians and focusing on, what I call youthful longevity, rather than the management of chronic disease for the duration of our life, there's just no way out. This is the only way. So I hope and I think people woke up a little bit.
Well, I agree with you. I think there's a lot more awareness now from the COVID experience. And I think people are still self-censoring because everyone's quite guarded right now still. But you're absolutely right. So let's go back and dig into your history a little bit as far as optimization and how you got interested in this. You told me earlier before we got on that you had hosted a radio show for 20 years. So
So I what happened was I got involved in the healthcare industry very by accident. I had a business in New York City. It was an auto repair shop that I ran from the age of 19 to 27. And then I was actually going to go to Russia to work with my father, who worked with his partner who had this multi-million dollar business where they bought sunflower seeds from all the farms across Russia and would turn it into oil and sell it on barges all over Europe. So that's what I was going to do. But I ended up staying and working with one of my relatives who invited me into the healthcare business. And basically, I was just assisting some doctors with the paperwork in the beginning. And so that's how I got my start in the healthcare business. And it was shortly after that I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis.
Mm.
So by then I had met a lot of doctors.
Right.
And a small percentage of all the doctors I met had this very interesting approach to their business. They didn't care anything about making money. They didn't care about marketing or the business of business. All they wanted to do is to heal people, and whatever tools they can use and however they can finagle the insurance company for them to be able to do that, that's what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So I found their philosophy very interesting. And after a while, I said, these people are just so passionate and so authentic and so like real. And they actually are the embodiment of their philosophy. They're thin, they're vivacious, they exercise, they take supplements, they eat right. It's really like remarkable, even back then. So I said, I wanted to highlight these people and introduce their philosophy to more of the public. So I bought time on the local radio station.
Okay.
It was WGBB, the oldest radio station on Long Island, with a studio to match. And then I started interviewing people, in the beginning, just local doctors, but then I was interviewing people from all around the world, multi-best-selling authors. I interviewed Suzanne Summers. I interviewed Jack LaLanne. I interviewed, all the top, Mark Hyman, many times.
Right.
Like all these remarkable people that, were willing to talk to me. And unbeknownst to them, as they were talking to me, I was learning because I read their books, I attended their lectures, I asked them questions, and that opened my mind to this whole brand new way of looking at the human potential for youthful longevity, which we can talk about later and what that means.
Yeah. So then I have to ask you, with your psoriatic arthritis and did that pretty well just go into remission once you started changing your lifestyle and doing all the right things?
Well, it wasn't lifestyle by itself. After you cause the kind of damage that I caused to myself, and then you all of a sudden start eating, carrots and spinach, that's not going to fix your problem. One of the doctors I found originally, who reached out to me because he wanted me to market him, his name was Dr. Richard Lynchitz. And when we first met, I said, Dr. Richard Lynchitz. He said, don't call me that, call me Rick. So, only like remarkable people with incredible accomplishments can be so humble, because had I achieved his notoriety, I would not have anybody call me Alex. I'd be called Mr. Doctor, Your Majesty. But he said, call me Rick. So we became fast friends. He was just a very generous, kind, remarkable man. And so he wanted me to market his practice because he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer 2 years before I met him. And he was working out of this tiny little basement office where he was just helping people deal with the chronic illnesses. He was trying to identify the underlying cause of his own before he ran one of the largest pain management centers in New York. So he retired from that and then eventually found his way to this little tiny office where we met. And he said, listen, I'm developing this idea of a more proactive approach to care. I'd like to bring it out to the public, so maybe you can help me do that. At the time, I was organizing these pretty large conferences. And so we started working together. Within 3 years, I helped him build, a huge multi-million-dollar practice with 19 professionals that were working Under him, he had a 5,000 square foot office on the tallest building in the area. And so I told him, listen, I'm going to help market you, but maybe I can be like the example of what kind of medicine you do. So I have this situation, psoriatic arthritis. I can barely walk. My joints hurt so bad. My fingers and wrists are so inflamed I can't pick up a cup. He said, yeah, okay, so I'll help you with that, and you help me with this. So we started working together. He did a whole bunch of tests. Nothing was covered by health insurance.
Right.
Blood tests, heavy metal tests, every kind of test. And then he saw a bunch of things. I had very high heavy metal toxicity. I was very low on vitamin D, a lot of different things. And so he started optimizing that. And within 90 days, nothing happened. I was still in pain. I was still suffering. But then, like on the 90th day, like magic, my arthritis went away. The psoriasis stayed. The arthritis went away like overnight. All of a sudden, I started running again. I started exercising again. I was like, wow, that was a miracle. And so I became a big believer in the fact that the human body has incredible potential for self-regeneration when you provide it with the right resources.
Mm-hmm.
The psoriasis is a different story. I don't know why they call it psoriatic arthritis, because they're two completely different things. Mm-hmm. They're arthritis and they're psoriasis. So autoimmune condition, but they don't have anything to do with each other pretty much, other than the fact they come in pairs like that.
So have you seen any more regression in the dermatological manifestations since you've been carrying on this more positive lifestyle?
Well, no and yes.
Okay.
For the last 20 years, it was progressively getting worse. And what was a little tiny mark on my thigh and on the bottom of my left ankle and on my head here, it was my 60% of my body was covered, and it was getting worse. It was getting more inflamed and more pain. And but also, I was busy. I was busy producing conferences. I kind of lost interest in fixing myself. I focused on building my business. And it was only after the whole COVID fiasco, where I couldn't do my conferences anymore, that I took a year off to meditate on what I want to do going forward. I want to build these conferences. And what I decided was I don't want to do conferences as I did before. I still want to do events, but I want to organize the model of care that I would want to have for myself to get to the root cause of this incurable health issue. So the way I structured it is I have a team of nurse practitioners who work under the direction and training of top functional medicine doctors. Okay. The job of the nurse practitioner is to become the world expert in me. Okay. She needs to know my blood work. She needs to know my genetics, my digestive biome, what I'm lacking in, my vices, my lifestyle thing. So then she becomes a conduit between me and the world experts in human optimization, all the top doctors, scientists, longevity experts like that. And then we work to optimize me. So I have this nurse practitioner whose name is Eileen Castaldo. She's the head nurse practitioner for the science of human optimization. And so we were working together for a year, and she had me doing all these detox things and digestive detox things and liver detox things and optimization things and supplement. I mean, I really put the pedal to the metal. And after a year, again, a miracle happened, and my psoriasis started receding. So for the first time in 20 years. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in creating a system of care in the United States that focuses on human optimization rather than disease management.
Right.
I think we're prime in the current environment of, like we discussed, people awakening to the problems with our healthcare system, the problem with our level of health or lack thereof, and that something better has to be done. So right. I can see that, people in the United States, with all the remarkable things we've done in all the other industries, that we can create the infrastructure, the context for a healthcare system that has people functioning at the peak level of health expression for the duration of their life, and hopefully a longer life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned some very good things. Now, when you started working with the nurse practitioner, connecting to these other functional medicine experts, did you then be able to kind of craft and distill an approach or some general protocols? Or is it this particular functional medicine person might be this way and the other functional medicine person might be, how is there some, because there's all kinds of different protocols, and not to say that one is correct and the others are wrong. It's just a lot of times people come from different philosophical approaches, even in longevity and what you like to call youthful longevity.
Well, I think it's a new science is what it is.
Right.
And it's not new in the fact that, we need some kind of more tools or some kind of new discovery. It's very old also, but it's new in that, for the last 70 years, the focus has been the management of chronic disease with pharmaceutical medications.
Right.
And so all the resources and all the brain power and all the remarkable people have been focused on how do we solve this particular symptom of this particular person.
Right.
I think human optimization is much simpler, and then that's what we look to do. We look for simple solutions to complicated problems.
Right.
So if I can do your blood work very thoroughly, identify deficiencies of important vitamins and minerals, I can do your digestive biome and look for bugs that are crucially important in digestion and assimilation. Make sure you don't have leaky gut. Make sure you don't have biofilm attached to your gut lining that's wreaking havoc. Make sure you don't have heavy metal toxicity or parasites. Mm-hmm. And then we optimize all that. The human body has incredible ability, desire to function optimally, to find homeostasis. And so if we can create that proper environment, I don't focus on any particular symptom. I think that's the intelligence of the body to fix that if it can do it. And then, if we need the heavier guns, I have people who do stem cells. I have people that do regenerative medicine. I have doctors that do all kinds of different amazing cutting edge things.
Right.
So if somebody's dealing with a particular tricky situation, after we optimize them, we consult with those experts in those fields and have them consult, tell us what else we can try.
But by optimizing the patient, it's like giving a great artist a good canvas to work on.
Right.
And
right.
and so their regenerative medicine is going to be much more effective in somebody who's optimized 100%. Than non-optimized.
So when I had my auto repair shop back in the late 80s, early 90s, we used to fix a lot of American cars from the 80s and the 70s. I don't know if you remember what those cars looked like, but they had like a distribution cap, spark plugs, and spark plug wires, and oil filter. They still have a lot of these things, but some of the things have changed. And then, so when the car came in with some kind of a weird problem, it wasn't running right, it was shaking, it was whatever. I said, listen, the first thing we need to do is we need to do a complete tune-up. Change the spark plugs, change the spark plug wires, change the distribution cap. Let's do a full tune-up. Air filter, fuel filter. We'll change all that and then see what happens. And 90 times out of 100, it would fix the problem. But if I started looking for the problem, check this thing, check the other thing, remove this thing, the other, it would take much more time and cost much more money than just doing a full tune-up, getting the car to the high specs that it's supposed to be at. And most of the problems get resolved. The human body, I don't think it's much more complex when it breaks down, but I think it's much simpler when it functions optimally. And there are certain things that can be done to keep it running that way.
No, I think you make a great point. And kind of the reason why I've kind of fallen into the space where I'm talking to you today is because we learned really quickly in the world of peripheral neuropathy that it was a symptom of an underlying core disease, usually metabolic. And sometimes we would be very effective in our procedures, and other times, same type of patient, same type of procedure, and one day you hit a home run, the next day you completely struck out. And you had to ask yourself, well, why is this? And then you start looking at the patient. Well, they have no vitamin D, or very, almost negligible vitamin D, or they have all of these other things. And their other physicians either didn't want to look for that, or they weren't interested, or they were too busy. Who knows? Myriad reasons of why all these very fundamental empirical things just floated under the radar. And, so when you optimize the patient, let's say the patient has type 2 diabetes. Well, you optimize them, all of a sudden their A1C comes down to normal levels, their kidney function improves, their vision improves, their mental cognitive states improve, their peripheral neuropathy improves. And it's like, well, we've just taken all of these different symptoms and we've just treated the essential human being. And guess what? They just went away,
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Spontaneous remission miracle is what.
Yeah, exactly. And it's and that's not a rare case. This is just, you take 100 people with metabolic disease and you put them through the program, and if they're willing to buy in, maybe not all 100 are going to get better, but 90 plus will get better. So,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So tell me a little bit about your organization, because I went to your website and you have a lot of experts on there and some very cool tutorials and everything. What is it that your company is doing specifically for not only meetings, and we'll talk about one of the meetings you have coming up, but for individuals who want to look into optimizing their health? Before we continue with this great discussion, I just want to take a quick break to acknowledge this week's sponsor.
Introducing Troche, a line of professional products with patented and proprietary delivery systems that revolutionize phytocannabinoid administration. Troche products are scientifically engineered to provide fast-acting, long-lasting, reliable delivery of phytocannabinoids to support your health goals.
I started using this endocannabinoid support system several months ago, and I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to optimize their own endocannabinoid system.
Troche. Science, wellness, relief.
Well, as you know, it's an uphill battle because the average person thinks that healthcare should be provided for free, either by the government or through their health insurance company. And I think that mindset is the number one stumbling block to our ability to regain optimal function, if optimal function is achievable. So, I wanted to create a system where we work directly with our clients. And I'm looking for a very particular type of person to work with. When I first designed this model, it was primarily for me, then my wife, my children, my friends, and then we took on a handful of other clients. A lot of doctors and nurses actually, when they see this model, they can see right away the value in it because they've seen the other side of our system of care. But for the average person, they've spent the last 70 years thinking that healthcare should be free and it should be provided either by the government or through their health insurance company, which is provided through their job. And that's one of the reasons why healthcare is so unaffordable and unsustainable and focused primarily on the management of chronic disease. So, what I wanted to do is to create an educational system. I don't want to sell this concept as you would a used car. Okay. I don't want to be there creating like motivational speeches about, if you join our company today, I'll give you a 50. I don't want to do any of that stuff. What I want to do is I want to court people like you would a long-term relationship. I want to provide them with information. So we do these live events. We have one coming up that I mentioned. We just published a book. It's being printed as we speak. I want to give them a free copy of that book to the people that are interested in this kind of model of care. I want to buy them dinner at our events. I want to introduce them to remarkable people. I want to provide them whatever information they need to make up their mind if this is something that makes sense to them and if it's something they would want to embrace for their life.
Right.
So this is a multifaceted program. We have our live events. We do interviews with some of the leaders in functional medicine, longevity, human optimization. We have our team of nurse practitioners who we train by these people, and we have our clients. And I'm looking to deliver this kind of care to people who are, athletes need a particular kind of regimen, because if they anything that's off, they feel it. I think entrepreneurs, executives, moms, who are all have to function at the peak level of their health expression, if something is off, they feel it right away, because they're always under this, the demand.
Right.
And so, I'm looking for a particular kind of person that we can introduce this model to, and hopefully enough people in America will see the value in it and embrace it.
Well, I think that, education's absolute power. And with our patients, the ones that I've done the best with are the ones that are very receptive into being educated. Because it's one thing for you to say, okay, here's a prescription, take it, and you're off to see the next patient. But if you spend a little extra time with that patient and say, listen, I'm going to do this particular thing because this, and this, and then we can measure, we can have some metrics to see how you're doing. And in 3 months, we'll run this other test. And that changes the motivation and the desire exponentially in my clinical experience, at least, because once a patient understands a little bit of physiology and why you're trying to recommend a certain thing for them, it's like an aha moment. It's like, oh, I get it. But it's very hard for people to change behavior just for behavioral change sake alone without knowing what's the end goal. What am I really doing here? So this education is very empowering.
Well, the way we got here is also through education, because our healthcare system, that's currently almost $5 trillion per year, allocates a portion of those resources to educate people. And you've seen that on all the commercials. The United States is the only place on the planet other than New Zealand that allows pharmaceutical companies to advertise directly to the public, and they spare no expense, brought to you by Pfizer.
Right.
And so there's a lot of money being spent on educating the public on, I remember as a kid growing up, I came here to the United States, I was 10 years old, watching, Tom and Jerry cartoons. If you have a cold, you need the sniffling, sneezing, coffee head, stuffy head, fever, so you can sleep medicine.
Right.
And if you have pain, you need this. If you have an ache, you need that. So the commercial starts with, you're black and white, then you're in pain, and then it ends with you're in color, running through a field of flowers. So it was very quick. You take this thing and you're good.
Right.
So they spend $60 billion a year on this type of education campaign. And
but I almost think that's more propaganda than education.
But you're right. But I don't even know what the difference is between propaganda and education. I think in this case, it's based on some science, I suppose. But regardless, we became believers in the fact that you take a pill and you find relief to the damage you've been causing for the last 10 years by eating hot dogs and pretzels and cotton candy.
Right.
So we've been misled, definitely. Our kindness and trust in these institutions have been weaponized against us. And now we're seeing the unfortunate results of that. So we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah. So your book that's coming out is titled Youthful Longevity, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And it'll be out when, Alex?
It's in print now. We submit all the files.
Okay.
I don't know how long it takes them to do it, a couple of months. This is what it's going to look like.
Awesome.
And, I'd love to send you one of the first copies.
You have to autograph it.
Absolutely. With wishes for good health, etc., longevity. So you'll just send me the address where you want me to mail that. And as soon as I get the first copies, I'll put it in the mail for you.
I'll also put that link on the show notes once it gets up to the resellers and or Amazon and all of the booksellers as well. Because most of our guests have written books, and I personally love books. Not as much in the digital version as the ones that I can actually just put my hands on.
I have boxes of books, and they're all hard copy. Even now, I can't stand I like to highlight. I like to go back. I like to review my books. I like to see my books.
Yep. Yep.
I like to know they're there. They're like my blankie,
Yeah. There. I think that's a little bit indicative of me being an old dog. I'm not going to call you an old dog, but
no, that's fine. I'm the same like you. It's a mindset. I think some of the younger people also, they like vinyl records. They like real books. So I don't know if it's just age. My wife, she loves her Kindle. She loves her Kindle. She loves all the modern electronics. I think we're just old souls, is what it is. It could be any age for that.
Yeah. So very cool. So let's get back to your conferences that you run. Are those just for the general public, or do you have one specific for people that want to get interested into functional medicine? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is our next event coming up. This journal, we interviewed Naomi with the journalist from Epic Times and Fortune magazine.
Okay.
So she wrote like a 3,000 word article that took up most of my journal. I was going to edit it down, but I was like, it's so good. So I left the whole thing. Anyways, it's mailed to 10,000 people of a specific demographic who we are inviting to this event.
Okay.
And so it just went in the mail like yesterday. So, I'm looking for a particular kind of person, and we're targeting those people to bring them to our events. And then I introduce them to my doctors, to people of Naomi Wolf's caliber, and hopefully inspire them, to see through all the bureaucracy and the propaganda they've been sold on over the last decade, and see that this is a much simpler but much better down the road option if we want to stay healthy, avoid all these lifestyle diseases we're told are inevitable and incurable,
right?
And enjoy what I call the crowning decade, the last 10 years that we get to spend on this planet, the way we want to the best of our ability.
Right. No, there's a tremendous amount to be said about having a long lifespan and correlatively have the same health span, and that to me is the win-win.
Well, it's not impossible. You've seen these. There's a lot of centenarians who are as healthy as they are old. They're in their hundreds, and they're still. I watched this woman speak. She was actually promoting Trump, 105 years old.
Right.
And she was beautiful and cognizant, and she looked great.
Right.
So it's very possible to be older and be healthy at the same time. When I talk to people, it's interesting because I was just talking to my friends recently, and we were talking about like, how long do you want to live? One of my friends, 80 would be good. 80, that's like in a few years from now. What's 80? If you're healthy, cognizant, and well, you're enjoying your grandchildren and your family, and you're traveling, you do whatever the heck you want to do with your life, why 80?
Right.
You know why 80?
Why?
Because when we see what 80 looks like, we don't want it. The average 80-year-old in the United States, I mean, look at our current president. It's not looking great. It's not very inspirational. On the other hand, you look at RFK, who's 70, or you look at some of the doctors like Dr. Jeffrey Life. I don't know if you know who that is.
I don't.
Dr. Life is 86 now. He wrote a bunch of books. His latest is about longevity. And when he was in his late 50s, his wife sent him a picture of himself on the back of a boat, his ex-wife. And he had this big belly. He was like 50 pounds overweight. He had pre-diabetes, diabetes, heart disease, a whole bunch of different things. So that motivated him to change his life. And he was recognized as one of the top fittest men in America by Men's Fitness magazine, like 6 or 7 or 8 years later.
Wow.
Now he's 86. He's fantastic. Built. He looks like he's got an 86-year-old looking head, but like a 30-year-old bodybuilder looking body. So he's a remarkable man. So, but yeah, I'm just saying that we can do better.
Yeah. So you mentioned the ideal demographic. What are you looking for? What is your ideal demographic? I mean, obviously they got to be motivated, but
No, well, yes, but
yeah.
what I'm looking for are married women
Okay.
between the ages of 40 and 60 who make a certain income. They have to be able to afford proactive care.
Right.
They have to be interested in fitness and health and things like that. And they have to be like working. They have to be in the business world, the executive. They have to be some kind of a person who's under some stress and who are pursuing something with their life. So that's my demographic. That's the person I'm looking for.
Well, one of the other things about longevity is not only is it good for the person you've optimized, but it's also very good for their family and caregivers, potential caregivers. And a lot of times people don't realize that. And, so I think sometimes if you ask people, well, how old were your folks when they passed away, if they're still, and they'll tell you the story. It's like, oh yeah, it was horrible. Had to do things I never thought I would have to do. Alzheimer's took them. And then you think about this and you go, man, I don't want that for my kids. That's another motivational factor when people realize that you're not just taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family. And the longer you're strong and cognizant and can help out your family, that's a very important, and that should be a very big motivator for people.
Yeah, I would add to that. I have 2 children. I like them both. Excellent people. My son started working at one of my conferences when he was 12.
Okay.
I gave him a little booth. He was selling raw honey, nuts, and chocolate, organic chocolate. His company name was the Natural Sweetie. His tagline was, "Our business is your pleasure."
There you go.
So he kind of grew up around all this information. So did my daughter, who's a few years younger than he is. And I have to tell you, like one of the, I guess, legacy that I passed on to my children is this idea of eating well, staying fit, and being health conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't buy into all the nonsense. And they are both in great shape. Thank God. My son is 30 now. Just recently made me a granddaughter. And so if we can if we can pass on the legacy of youthful longevity, fitness, good health, avoiding all these chronic symptomatology to the next generation, I think we've accomplished something great.
No, I totally agree. And so much is actually, at least in my experience, you can tell them things, but that doesn't mean as much as them watching you do it and live it.
I mean, you've seen like obese parents with obese children.
Oh yeah, right.
And so it's clearly not genetic by itself. It's lifestyle. It's how you eat. It's how you think.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, this is something that we have to. And that we're living in America. You can do whatever you want, but a certain part of society gets kind of swamped into this mindset. And they don't know how to get out.
Well, one of the things is, unfortunately, our society has been raised up on the magic pill concept, and they don't want to, chop the wood and tote the water. They just want the magic pill. And it's like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's way too hard. And it's like, well, if you don't want to work, how do you expect me to make you better? Doesn't work.
That's what it is. I mean, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. We've been taught this.
Right.
We've been misguided by nefarious forces. And so we come in there mouthing this propaganda, thinking it's our own, but It's not. It's been implanted there years ago by very smart people who are looking at us like little rodents in an experiment of some kind.
And even, Alex, even people who are very dedicated to, making very conscious decisions, you still have to read the damn label pretty closely. I mean, you'll see something that'll say olive oil, and then, you look back down on the back of it, it's like 80% canola oil, 20% olive oil. It's like you would never get away with that in other industries. I mean, that, so
It definitely borders on criminal.
yeah,
And
exactly.
everything that, I was buying things that looked good. There was this bean salad that I liked. And like, out of curiosity, I looked on the back, canola oil.
Yeah.
Seriously, people, like, really? Come on.
Yeah.
I like it, but I just threw the whole thing in the garbage. And
Yeah.
And then the mayonnaise, like you buy a mayonnaise. I don't eat a lot of it, but sometimes I like to put it in a particular salad that I make. I look on the back, some nonsensical health destroying oil.
Yeah,
So it's very sad. Very sad.
It is. And people have the right intent. They're going down to the store, they're trying to make conscious decisions, but they sneak that stuff in so, surreptitiously that you have to really almost like read every little thing on
that's one of the main problems with our system of health, with our food supply. And I don't know if you've read Kaylee Means and Casey Means, their new book, Good Life, I think it's called. And so what they said in it, among many other things, is that we have this $6 billion food industry monstrosity that is feeding this almost $5 trillion disease management monstrosity.
Right.
And we are being squeezed between those two things. So really, you have to be a PhD scientist to figure out how not to poison yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Today the spinach is good. Tomorrow they're sprayed with some kind of crap that
it's full of glyphosate or whatever.
So it's a very, very, very big. So the context of this whole thing has to be repaired if we want to pass on the kind of a society to our children that will support their health. So when they buy mayonnaise and they want to put it in some salad, that they know there's nothing in there that's going to harm them.
Right. No, it's. I saw a label the other day that it was called not just canola oil, but jet expressed canola oil. And I'm thinking, wow, that's it. Why don't you just say twice the poison, or 15 times the poison, but it's pretty astounding. So Alex, I want to wrap up with you. Tell people how they can learn about what you're doing and get to your website.
The best way to find us is at our website, which is showinc.com. That's SCHOINC.com.
Very cool. I will put that on the show notes as well. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate your expertise, and it's been fun.
Dr. Stephen, pleasure. Thank you for all you do, and hopefully we can chat again.
Absolutely.
I'm constantly exploring new avenues to enhance well-being and address any health concerns. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to an exciting supplement called STEM Regen, which I take daily and genuinely believe could revolutionize your health journey as well. STEM Regen stands out as a game changer in the realm of wellness. Crafted from 5 potent plant extracts, it boasts a remarkable ability to stimulate the release of your body's own stem cells from your red bone marrow. Why is this significant? Well, stem cells are the superheroes of our body's natural repair system. They possess the extraordinary capacity to morph into various cell types, aiding in tissue regeneration and repair. As we age, the quantity of circulating stem cells in our system reduces significantly, impairing our body's ability to heal and rejuvenate itself effectively. STEM Regen steps in to counter this decline by kickstarting the release of stem cells into circulation, thereby bolstering your body's innate repair mechanisms. Once unleashed into your bloodstream, these mobilized stem cells actively seek out areas of damage or injury, initiating the healing process. By incorporating STEM Regen into your daily routine, you're essentially empowering your body to tap into its own regenerative prowess more efficiently. I firmly believe that STEM Regen could be a valuable addition to your wellness regimen, especially if you're seeking to fortify overall health and vitality, accelerate tissue repair, or expedite recovery from injury or illness. This first of its kind stem cell mobilizer is changing the game in regenerative medicine. Don't wait to unleash your body's innate healing capabilities. Visit stemregen.co/Dr. Steven, that's with a PH, and use the code SBPOD to get a 15% discount off your first order of StemRegen. I hope you all enjoyed today's show and got some truly empowering knowledge out of it. You can always follow up on anything we talked about in the show notes found at our website, podofinquiry.com. If you think you might have tickled just a few neurons inside that cerebral cortex, please spread the word to your friends and colleagues and tell them that they need to get spelunking. Also, if you can take a minute to leave a review on your podcast provider of choice, and especially Apple Podcasts, that would greatly help the show and be so appreciated, provided it's positive. And if not, then just keep your pie hole shut and stay down in that cave. Let's keep spelunking.
This podcast is designed for informational purposes only and does not constitute any medical or surgical consulting advice or imply a development of any physician-patient relationship. The opinions of guests who are featured on the show are not necessarily the opinions of Dr. Barrett or the production team. This podcast is owned solely by Barrett Medical and Surgical Media, LLC. While the show is highly oriented for physicians and healthcare providers, anyone interested in the improvement of human performance and understanding will find this a welcome goblet to sip from, or guzzle. However, no representation or warranties are made in any way whatsoever on this podcast for any products, techniques, or other things discussed. Invited guests are not vetted by the Pod of Inquiry for their qualifications and may have a direct or indirect financial interest in what they present and discuss on the show. The Pod of Inquiry disclaims any responsibility from anything taken from the show and used personally or professionally. It is a responsibility of the listener to perform their own due diligence prior to the implementation of any ideas, products, techniques, or anything talked about on the show.